In this movie, I'll show you how to construct a filled path outline that overlaps itself, which is essential for creating this final interwoven knot effect, where the knot appears to go behind the circle, then in front of itself, then behind itself, then in front of the circle, then behind the circle, then in front of itself, and so on. So I'll go ahead and switch back to my illustration in progress. We want to turn off the Live Paint number 1 layer, then click on the Primitives layer to make it active. Go up to the flyout menu icon and choose Duplicate Primitives. So you can duplicate a layer even though it's hidden. Now I'll go ahead and drag that Primitives copy layer to the top above Live Paint number 1. Don't drop it inside Live Paint number 1 or you'll end up creating a sublayer. You want to put it on top there. And then drop it into place. Now turn the layer on so that we can see its contents. Double click on an empty portion of the layer and I'll call this layer Base Shapes. And then I'll go ahead and change the color to violet, just to make it obvious, and then I'll click OK. All right, now what we want to do is take the central green knot, which is currently a stroked path outline, and we want to break it into 3 pieces. Now, you might say, well, Deke, it started as 3 pieces. It started with this loop up here, and then we rotated it to create this one, and then we duplicated it again in order to create the final one, and then we joined them together. So you might think we should split them apart at the corner points. Well, if you do that, you're going to ruin your miter joint. So the better thing to do is to break the paths apart at their central smooth points. And I'm just asking you to trust me for now. It's going to work out beautifully. We'll be using the scissors tool, so you may need to click and hold on the eraser tool and then select the scissors from the flyout menu, or you can just press the C key. And now go ahead and click on this top smooth point in order to break it into 2 separate endpoints. Next, click on this smooth point, the lower right one, and then finally click on the lower left smooth point. And that'll go ahead and bust up that central green knot into 3 paths. And you can see that if you twirl open the Base Shapes layer. We now have 3 green path outlines as are visible here. All right, now we want to convert these strokes into filled path outlines. So press the V key in order to switch to your black arrow tool. And we might as well just select everything by Alt-clicking or Option-clicking on the Base Shapes layer here inside the Layers panel. Then go up to the Object menu, choose Path, and choose Outline Stroke. And now we have 3 closed paths filled with green and 1 compound path filled with orange. All right, now let's assign a stroke by clicking on the second swatch up here in the control panel and selecting Rich Black. And then I want you to change the line weight value once again to 3.6 points in order to achieve this effect here. And now if I click off the paths to deselect them, and I drag these paths into different locations, you can see just how the paths are divided from each other. All right, now we need to join them back together. And this is where things get a little tedious. It's quick work, but you got to reperform the same steps over and over again. I'll press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z on the Mac a couple of times in order to put those paths back in place. And then I'll press Ctrl-Y or Command-Y on the Mac to switch to the outline mode. That'll make it easier to select the paths and join them together. And I'll press the A key to switch to my white arrow tool. Now I'll go ahead and zoom in on my artwork, a couple of clicks here, so I can better see what I'm doing. And I'm going to marquee these 2 intersecting segments right there, the ones at the top of the central portion of the knot. And you just want to marquee around the segments. Don't marquee around the anchor points. Just create that small marquee around the segments like so, and then press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac in order to get rid of them. Now we need to join what are 2 anchor points right there and 2 coincident anchor points right there together in order to fuse our open paths. So if you're working along with me, go ahead and marquee those top 2 points. It looks just like 1 point, but there's 2 points right on top of each other. And because we want to join these points into a smooth point, press Ctrl-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on the Mac in order to bring up the Join dialog box. Because if you just press Ctrl-J or Command-J on the Mac, Illustrator always joins the paths to a corner point, which is not what we want. So go ahead and select Smooth and click OK. Now you're going to have to do this step a total of 6 times, so just be prepared for that. Go ahead and click OK. Now marquee these 2 coincident endpoints down here at the bottom and press Ctrl-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on the Mac, select Smooth, and click OK. All right, now we have to repeat that process a couple of more times. We'll start with this guy right there. Go ahead and marquee those 2 segments that are right on top of each other. Don't marquee the anchor points. Press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac in order to get rid of them. Then marquee these 2 coincident anchor points and press Control-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on a Mac, select Smooth, click OK. And I just want to demonstrate that we do indeed have two disparate endpoints at each of these locations. I'll go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on a Mac to undo that move. I'll marquee those two endpoints, and I'll press Control-Shift-Alt-J, Command-Shift-Option-J on a Mac, select Smooth, click OK. We only have to perform that trio of operations one more time. Go ahead and marquee these two overlapping segments, and then press the backspace key or the delete key on a Mac to get rid of them. Marquee these two endpoints, press Control-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on a Mac, select Smooth, click OK, and then marquee these two endpoints. Can't see them right now, but I know they're right about there. And then I'll press Control-Shift-Alt-J or Command-Shift-Option-J on a Mac, select Smooth, and click OK, and we end up with the finished result. Now I'll press Control-0 or Command-0 on a Mac in order to center my zoom, and I'll click off the shapes to deselect them. And I'll press Control-Y or Command-Y on a Mac to see what we've come up with. Now, just to give you a sense of what's going on here, I'll press the V key in order to switch to the black arrow tool. We have one path outline right here, and I'm going to turn off this top path here inside the base shapes layer in the layers panel so that we can see in the background here, we've got this path that loops around itself a total of 3 times, as you can see. And then we have another path that describes the inside edges right there, and it also loops around itself. And that's exactly what we need to pull off this effect. Now, just so things are a little less confusing, go ahead and select that front path, the one that's inset, and click on the first swatch up here in the control panel and change the fill color to white. And that way we can tell that that's the interior, the green path is the exterior, and of course, the orange compound path in the background is the larger circle. All right, gang, that's how you go about creating a couple of closed path outlines. They're really just going to describe one closed path system that overlaps itself. In the next movie, I'll show you how to use the Live Paint feature to weave all these paths together.